appreciate you guys coming out. I guess there'll be people kind of trickling in. I don't want to hold you guys up, or Tom for that matter. Just a couple of updates. I typically don't do this, but day before yesterday, I can't keep my week straight for some reason. Day before yesterday, we had the Comcast thing. And Comcast just announced speeds up to 100 gig on fiber in the community, and not, oh, you can only do it in this block. They've spent $14 million to kind of build it out. So at the new building, we'll probably do a 10 gig connection, and it's completely scalable. So I'm excited with it. You'll appreciate this with SLAs. So I think the big, with the exception of drops here and there on a monthly basis, been pretty pleased with it. We're running a gig over here, and I don't know about.
It's down right now.
What's that?
It's down.
It is down.
Yeah.
So this is at least once a month. We've got these issues. So. So that was huge. I mean, I can't think of AT&T. Who's talked a lot about it, having a big announcement like this. So we're pleased. Second thing is that West Edge, which is a space that we're developing really on behalf of the city, with a focus more towards life sciences, is scheduled for delivery in January. So we're kind of working on that project. And then you got the Charleston Tech Center. The reason I brought it up is we'll soon announce the development of a learning center in partnership with a national tech company, and it's geared towards 6 to 60. So folks like Tom could come in and teach his class, but it'll also be the College of Charleston come in, Charleston Southern could come in, targeting, kids could come in at as early as 6 years old to learn Scratch on the weekends and that kind of thing. So I think it's good things for the community, but. We have Tom Hashem today, and this is what we've got to do is we're going to very aggressively pursue partners. The days of us kind of going it alone, are quickly coming to an end as we want to scale up. So it's leveraging the wonderful talent that exists in the community. Now on that, Tom has worked in the tech industry for nearly 20 years. Graduate of Clemson University. And in computer science and the Citadel, got your master's, MBA in 08. So from computer science and MBA, a pretty nice combination, And a certified PMP, SAFE program consultant and release train engineer. I successfully transformed numerous commercial and federal organizations to Agile implementations to help them successfully establish better ways of working. He's passionate about behavioral development, driven development, and improving system development through software quality assurance practices. Tom provides safe training and coaching to teams and leaders, supporting them in achieving improved outcomes for their businesses and their customers. Tom, thanks for being in. As I mentioned, Tom does these it's like all day, isn't it? All day sessions?
Yeah, usually most of the classes are 2 days long.
So
we also have 3-day classes.
Yeah, so we'll put those on our calendar. So for those of you guys, if the folks in Europe who you want to spend a little more time on this topic, he's available to do it.
And I have a stack of cards at the front.
So Tom, go ahead and take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I know a couple of you. My name's Tom Hashem. I've been in Charleston since 2004. First half of my career, I was a developer, mostly supporting spyware efforts. Spyware back then, now it's called NIWC, the Naval Information Warfare Center. Variety of comms controls, software projects. I've worked with SRC before in the back on several programs. And then around 2010, I ended up with a firm out of Daniel Island called Spark. Some of you probably have heard before. And my career kind of transformed from just being a developer, especially somebody focused on test automation, to more of an agile architect. We boomed in that time. The spyware had taken on some work and had grown very quickly in the VA world. And so we had to come up with solutions to scale Agile implementations, also teach Agile So at that time, it was, Scrum Alliance was the only game in town for the most part, and they invented a lot of this stuff back in 2001, and it was really going pretty well by 09, 2010. And so we were doing that at Spark, and we started to, we got involved with the VA's Veterans Benefits Management System, which was this gigantic effort. Had a lot of political oversight, and along going with that, we had to, at one point, we had 27 dev teams, of which some of these dev teams had 15 people in it. So you can imagine how many companies are involved, how many contracts are involved, how much technology, everything that had to be accomplished with that. So we had to figure out how to get Agile teams to work together, right? And based off of the core tenets of the Agile Manifesto. And while we were solving that, it's around 2010, 2011, 2012, other people were too. This was occurring, across the world in most regards. And so a gentleman named Dean Leffingwell and a couple others in Colorado, they formed a company called Scaled Agile. And SAFe was born in 2011. That's when the first framework came out, 1.0. And pretty much has updated the framework about every year, every 18 months. So right now we're on 4.6. They had a SAFe conference the first week of October, and SAFe 5.0 is going to go live in January. So, SAFe, and we'll talk about it. I'll tell you everything that's going on in here. SAFe is based off of, I believe the number I heard at the conference was over 150 best practice business books in technical IT management and solutioning. So they're always looking for ways to improve how they run their programs or how they advise running a program. And they keep growing it. They change things. If something isn't working, they take feedback and it goes on there. So it really is a combination of best practices to run their programs effectively. And I've seen this, because I kind of grew up with it without being directly involved in SAFe. And then, that Agile Architect phase of my career from 2010 to now, I ended up becoming a SAFe trainer in 2017. And I was an immediate Kool-Aid drinker because I was like, oh my God, this is what I had been writing papers about for the past 7 years on the best practices to do this. So a lot of the core elements, which some people will be like, yeah, that's just how you do this. Test-driven development, behavioral-driven development, incorporating DevOps practices into your development solutions, thinking about developing all the way to a deployed state at the end. Anybody in here read the Phoenix Project? I love that book, right? Great book.
Unicorn Project.
Yeah, I think it's like this week or next week, right? I've already pre-ordered mine. It's a wonderful book. But it's it's the idea of designing your software so that you're not just throwing it over the fence to products, right? And so everything for a long time was all about silos that were occurring. Hello, Ted. Speaking of former Sparker, Ted and I worked together back then in the early days. So that's how I got to where I am right now. I'm the director of software engineering for a firm out of DC called Intelligent Waves, and they've been very kind and generous to let me run with Scaled Agile solutions for myself. So that's how I ended up teaching the classes, holding workshops, etc. So it's been a lot of fun for me, and I get to do this, which is the thing I enjoy most, getting to talk to people about how to run these programs, how to do work in a good way. Earlier, I talked about my focus was very on quality assurance practices, test automation. What I've found now through mostly my work in the Navy, and the VA, but a lot in the Navy, is the focus needs to be on product management, product ownership. I found a lot of the programs I've been on, that's the area that needs the most growth. So that's an area of SAFe that I really like. I think we do a good job through this material on creation of epics backed by business cases that get broken down into features that are measurable. They have real metrics. You can see if you're succeeding right. They do that off of what they call the lean UX startup cycle, right? So it's a lot of what you all are here, people that are running out of the corridor, you're thinking about, hey, I gotta get the minimal thing done, get it out there, start getting feedback. That's all incorporated into this, right? So we have classes on it around product management. And we actually, and I'm gonna go through these slides too, but we Scaled Agile purchased their first company this past spring. There was a gentleman, his name was Luke Homan, who had been in the Agile community for forever and had invented a number of participatory games to really around product management and budgetary decisions. And they bought his company, and they're incorporating his work and his games into Agile solutions going forward. Again, that's why I like the idea of focusing on product management. Like, why, not just, hey, we're going to do this thing, but why are we doing it, and why are we prioritizing the work the way that we want to prioritize it? So, so that's pretty cool. And there's a new course just went live in September called Agile Product Development and Delivery. I think it's got a lot of D's in it. So anyway, I like SAFe, big fan of it. There's a lot of courses. They all touch on different areas. This is sort of an introductory. Feel free to ask questions at any time. I'm used to teaching the classes, so I'm used to calling on people. So for this one, I know it's a lot of data, but we'll get running with it. Dean Leffingwell, the creator of SAFe, this is his quote: "We all need to be thinking this way, right?" So the future of SAFe and Agile, you'll see a lot of topics on this being spoken about at conferences, is about business agility. That's what 5.0 is focusing on. How do we bring this way of thinking to areas outside of just IT, outside of just software development, right? So how many people in here have been on an Agile project, understand Agile? Okay, so about half the room. So if I had to sum up Agile in a nutshell, I would say it's making your work, whatever item you're in, small, making very small pieces of work that you are committing to getting done during a time period. Right? Would you guys agree to that? Right. So we're, what we would call small pieces of work, we would call it a user story, and that time period we would call a sprint or an iteration. So a lot of us execution-wise are used to saying the word sprint, but in SAFe we call it iteration. So if I use the word iteration, it's because it's out of here. But same thing. So you're saying a small piece of work, a user story, cannot be sized too big that it can't be done during one iteration. So it makes sense, right? So if we're thinking about that from a team level execution, that's what these teams are committing to. We got a group of people. We're saying, hey, this is how much work we can get done during a sprint. We need to come up with a way that we can we get multiple teams together, and we're getting these larger items done. And so what SAFe does is they call that a feature. So that's a SAFe-specific feature, is a piece of work that takes up to probably about 3 months to get done. So it's a larger work item that you might be dependent between different teams to get that accomplished. But again, you're putting a time box on it. You're saying we will get that done in 3 months, and there was a reason behind what we did. So we'll show that some more here. SAFe for lean enterprises, knowledge-based, proven, integrated principles, practices, and competencies for lean, agile, and DevOps. This is true. The DevOps, I taught the SAFe DevOps course just last month for a large integrator in Charleston, and I really enjoyed teaching that one. That one's fun. A lot of the SAFe courses are centered around how to do a specific role, right? Like there's a leading SAFe course, and I have some of the books up here if anybody wants to see them at the end. Kind of gives an overview of everything that's involved with a SAFe solution in case your customers, whether it's government or commercial, want you to head that way. The DevOps course is less about instruction, and it's more about applying the principles and the activities involved in a SAFe solution to your work. Right? So what we do, anybody in here heard of value streams? You ever done a value stream mapping exercise? So that's a lot of fun, where you're looking at the work you're doing from a trigger event to when the value is delivered, and you come up with the 20 to 30 steps that are involved with that, and lay it all out, from requirements coming in to deployment or finished state of your work. And during that course, we create a big value stream. We have these groups that are used to working together. We come up with their value stream, then we go through all the SAFe material, and we break it up into the quadrants, which I'll show up here in a little bit. And then we develop a future state of a value stream of what, so you can actually leave that class knowing the changes that you should be working on or should be looking for to improve the quality assurance practices of your work, to cut down your process time, your lead time, actually come up with like measurable differences, and that's a lot of fun. That's just an example of one of the SAFe classes, what it means. So this is SAFe. Anybody in here seen this graphic before? Is this brand new? Okay. Well, I will point at it so you can see it. So a lot of those of you who have done Agile, you're probably most used to this bottom step. Okay, this sort of makes sense to you. You have a dev team, a product owner, and a scrum master, and we call that an Agile team. There's different ways that an Agile team may come together. You might have a scrum team, you might have a Kanban team. Scrum team is it's sort of a small group of people that anybody in that group can get the work done for that group. It's cross-functional, meaning we take on a group of user stories saying we'll get it done during this period of time, and anybody in that group can work on any of the stories to advance it to completion. If you have a Kanban team, that's sometimes there's reasons you can't do that. Either you have a lot of unplanned work, you have to operate in the work is just sort of coming in, you got to execute on it and get it out. Or you might have, a situation on a government thing, especially where you might be limited on how many positions you have or something, and only TED can get step forward on, right? So we'd have to incorporate that into our Kanban solution. So anyway, that's an Agile team. There's different ways to run it, but for the most part, we have a Scrum Master, a product owner, and a dev team. They hold an event at the beginning called a sprint planning event, iteration planning, where they work with the product owner to commit to getting a certain number of stories done during an iteration. Every day, the team will have a daily stand-up talking about, how are things going? What stories have they moved along the path to completion? How have they helped the team? Are there any impediments that the Scrum Master needs to be made aware of that the Scrum Master can go work on? That leads up to the end. We have a review, and hopefully along the way, your team has completed these user stories and demonstrated them to the product owner who's accepted them. And we get to the review and we say, okay, how many user stories did we commit to? How many were completed? These are some metrics around it. You get an idea how long each of these stories spent in design phases, test phases, etc. Then we hold a retrospective. How did the event go? How did the 2-week period go? So that's what you're looking on right here. Is your normal Agile execution between 2 to 3 weeks is generally what's recommended. For those of you who did this, how long were your sprints right now? 2 weeks?
2 weeks to a month.
2 weeks to a month. So you actually have some 4-week-long sprints?
Mostly because it was UX, and that required a mix of Kanban and dev teams because we were expected to deliver an entire UX product, which required multifaceted skills.
Okay.
So we needed a longer time.
Yeah, that's interesting. And a lot of times, the longer ones I see, they happen because you're limited by how much time you get with your customer. It's like you can't see them until a month from now, and so that's they have to group it all up then to demonstrate it, right? But that's normal. Safe. I think we say anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks, but I would say 2 weeks. That's very quick, right? 2 weeks and 3 weeks are the averages. I would say most end up doing that. Problem with 4 weeks, I would tend to recommend not doing it. You can still, it's good to execute that way, but 4 weeks, how many of you can say exactly what you're going to be working on a month from now, right? So it's hard to do any sort of planning when you're thinking in terms of a chunk that far out. So that's what we're looking on here. That's what SAFE calls the team level. What they invented, this is the one thing that's very specific to Scaled Agile, is PI planning, which is the crux of when we come up a level to the program level. And we have some slides. I'll show that in a little bit so you can see what it is. But similar to how we have an Agile team down here, this is occurring on each dev team, each IT solution team, DevOps team. We have a program team, a release train engineer, product manager, and a system architect. So we come up a level. This now means we have groups of Agile teams that have to come together to work. The crux of that, said earlier, is the PI planning event. That's an in-person big room planning event. And anybody in here ever been to one before? No, okay. So
Not by that title.
Not by that title, okay. So it's a lot of fun. They're very high energy. They're cool things to do. It's there's videos out there on YouTube you can watch. Lego has one. Microsoft, Amazon. A lot of these people are executing it safe. You can see what this looks like. The teams all get together in a big room. They put their big white sheets up and they take they start breaking up their work, their features that they've been assigned into user stories and enablers that they will execute over the next 3 months to accomplish a feature, right? Or how many features they've been assigned as a team. So that is that group of teams, when you bring them all together and they're working in a PI planning event, is called an Agile Release Train. So that's an ART. So similarly, we have a dev team, an Agile team. We have an Agile Release Train is when we bring together multiple Agile teams. And so that's where the Release Train engineer acts as kind of the Scrum Master of Scrum Masters, has an idea how all this is working, who should be involved. Are we hitting the marks that we need to be hitting? And then this is where we start getting the more safe stuff. They have the continuous exploration, integration, and deployment phases, all leading up to a release on demand ability, right? So kind of goes along with that DevOps thought that Gene Kim speaks at the SAFE conferences, big fan. And you're developing with deployment in mind. You're getting it to that place so that theoretically, with the other part of Agile talked about earlier is you always want working software, working items that can go out and be used by your customers at the end of every iteration. We want to separate deployment from release. We want releasing to be a business decision, not the developers need to be there over the weekend doing everything to figure out how to make it work in production, because theoretically you've already done that. You've built that with production in mind. So the whole industry is moving that way, I would say. I'm not going to go on too much more about everything else. Basically, that's the crux of it. Good Agile execution. This is, bringing, the execution of multiple Agile teams and what this means and how you do it. Come up one more level. This is one art, one Agile release train. If we have multiple arts, multiple Agile release trains, we have a solution train, and there's some, rules around here about what these people do to make sure it's executing. The solution trains I know of are mostly in like the banking and insurance industries. They're very large adopters of SAFE. So they might, just making this up, they might have a checking account train, they might have a money marketing train, everything that makes sense. Usually a train has 50 to 150 people in it. So, you just reach a size where you have to have more because you can't have that many people. It's hard to coordinate. So, and then at the top level is portfolio management. And SAFE spends a good amount of time. We have a new course that went live over the summer about, how do you build business cases for what you should be funding and why? What are the guardrails? What does that work look like? And similar to how we have Agile execution all along here, Kanban boards to see how your work's progressing, we want to bring it to the business side at the top. Why are we building it? How do we prioritize this? What does that look like? And so we have a lean portfolio management course that we focus on there. So, any questions on this? We're going to keep going through it, but, it's the quick run through.
I had a question.
Yeah.
On the previous slide.
Mm-hmm.
What was PI?
Program increment planning.
Program increment.
Yep.
What does that mean?
That's the quarterly event. So you're plotting out what you're going to do over your next 12 weeks. So your next maybe 6 2-week iterations. So your next 4 3-week iterations. And the goal would be, and we'll have a slide on it later, so you'll be able to see it. But you want to be able to have a good plan so you can limit work injection, right? So you're bringing everybody together, you're gathering up your dependencies, working your risks, identifying all this, and getting that buy-in from the customer of like, this is what we're going to do. It really helps to lessen that, rug being yanked out from underneath of you, changing the plan, right? Because you've all come together to do that. So, right. Yep. And I'll show a picture of it too. So. Any other questions on this? I know it's a lot of verbiage. The kind of tying in with the next slide, this is really growing. This is how most people are doing it every year. The numbers are going higher and higher. I believe at the last conference, the SAFE conference, they said that there are over 400,000 SAFE certified individuals. So when we talk about the classes, and I'll show the roadmap what the classes are, you take a test at the end of that, and when you pass the test, you're SAFE certified in that role, right? So there's team level, sort of basic Agile education. There's specific roles of Scrum Masters, Product Owners. We actually have a couple Scrum Master classes to really understand how to execute it. You get this many people together working in these solutions. You need to know what expectations are, so where your work boundaries are, so you're not working outside your lane, because somebody else needs to do that. There's a lot of case studies. I think these are an example. I think every DoD and Fed civilian agency is at least getting started with it. Some are very mature with how they're going. I know Allstate has been doing this for a while. They're not on this list, but they're executing. They've got multiple trains. Bank of America is running several large safe execution planning events, et cetera, in Charlotte. The Navy is just getting going. The Air Force has been doing it for a while now. Air Force is starting to have their language in their RFPs, their requests for proposals, actually reflect safe expectations. Marine Corps as well. Marine Corps is expecting that. IRS, is it Fannie Mae? Yep. So it's definitely growing. There's a lot of case studies. I was surprised TomTom was actually still around. That's what I learned from this slide. Yeah, question.
So I remember being at a lot of lean enterprise conferences, leadership conferences, where Jim Womack, before he stepped out, said if he had to do it again, he would have spent more time focusing on the top of the house, getting them knowledgeable about lean so that they would know why to do it.
I completely agree with that.
And he feels, so is the Scaled Agile group doing that as well?
Yeah, that's it. That's actually in our slides here.
Okay.
So, we talk about it. We'll show it, but this works when leadership buys in. Leadership is in on it and understands it. Right? Is understanding lean at its basic level of let's get things done. Let's finish stuff. Right? So to me, when I think about safe, what I care about is predictability. I want to get stuff done. Right? I don't need more. I want to get what I'm saying I'm going to get done, and I want everybody to understand there's reasons why the decisions being made are being made, so that if we are still agile. Tom's pet peeve, you're looking for a Tom pet peeve, is when you're sitting in a meeting with somebody who doesn't quite understand this, and they throw out the phrase like, "Oh, we're agile, aren't we?" Anybody ever heard that? Right? That's just being an excuse to just change things up, and it's like that's not what this is. There's a lot of planning involved with Agile, any implementation of Agile. Not just safe, but if you're doing it, you're coming up with a sprint plan. If you're just got one team, we're committing to this is what we're going to do the next 2 weeks. We're not saying we will not change course, we will not alter it if there's an emergency situation, but everybody needs to understand there's a cost to that, right? So, we can end the sprint early, we can do another one, but it's not just winging it. And sometimes I feel like that happens when leadership doesn't understand the benefits of really understanding Agile. Right? And this is where I'm showing I'll wave my safe flag. I love these courses. They're a lot of fun for me to teach. I enjoy it. There's a lot of good exercises. We actually, we're going to try to do one in here so you get an idea what it looks like, because what I've found is that somebody will be like, oh, I'm a Scrum Master, right? And the variety of education on Scrum Masters is all over the board. Like some people are like, yeah, I went through, and I'm not going to pick on one because they're videotaping me. But, if you just read something online and took a test and you never talked to people, you never practiced this, and you're just going to go run with, I'm ready to go be a Scrum Master, my thoughts are you're going to struggle with that. What I like about the SAFE classes is we really do a lot of group work. We talk about it, we practice it, and then we talk about what we just practiced, right? To sort of reinforce it so that when you go back to your teams, you do this stuff, you have an idea what was behind it, why we were doing it the way we do. And that's what comes out of this. So that's why, going back to what you said, the leadership, they need to sit in these courses more than anyone. And that's the group that when you get a company or a customer that is sending people to these classes or investing in training and education, those are the ones that are going to be successful. I've had a couple, my experience is mostly with the Navy. I've had a couple Navy programs have me on recurring teaching gigs. I've come back and taught them several different classes, and they're killing it because their entire group understands what they should be doing. Different classes, different levels of people in there, and when we get them together, they know what they should be doing and they know what the other group should be doing. And that's, comparing that to the groups that don't do that, it's just night and day difference. So, does that help? Is it? And we'll show it more on the here, but these are the main elements. You saw it on the big graphic, sort of how it lines up with the framework. Lean Agile leadership. We're just talking about drive and sustain organizational change and operational excellence by empowering individuals and teams to reach their highest potential. If I had to say anything about SAFE, I'd say that you are like, why should we do this, right? Like, I'm not this big, I'm not, I don't know what all this is. You can hire the smartest people in the world, but they, if you're not using them right, then you're not getting the value out of that you should be getting, right? So understanding good product development practices, safe, agile mindset will help you to get more out of the people you have. Like, I think regardless of size. So, at the SAFE conferences, they do 2 a year, and then there's a lot of meetups, et cetera. But we talk about, I don't have 50 people. Is SAFE not for me? And people say, no, if you understand this, there's value in it. Even if you have one dev team, you've got 10 people. Maybe you're not having a PI planning, but if you understand the tenets of these classes, what the mindset, the principles involved, you will be executing in a better way. Changing traditional management theory, call for mindset is foreign to most executives. So, a good book. He spoke. I'm not going to say his name because I will not pronounce it right. But it's a book called From Program to Product, I believe it is. But it's the mindset of thinking, from project to product. So, part of SAFE, and we talk about it in the leading SAFE class in here, is the mindset change to go from funding projects to funding value streams, right? So when we do this, we set everything up right, we're basically creating an agile engine, an agile delivery engine, so we get value out. Like, what I care is how much value I want to incrementally build it. I'm not just thinking in that waterfall approach of, once I get to here, I'm done, right? Now, you might have times when you pivot and you change to another product you're going to work on or program. But you're incrementally building it, you're delivering on that value stream, getting the value out there, and not just thinking with an end state in mind. How many in here have been on a waterfall project? Okay. Yeah. How'd that go? Did you love it? Great life? Good experience? That was my early, that's why, again, I'm a big Kool-Aid drinker, just for Agile and also safe. My life on those early Navy projects, I feel like it's okay to pick on them. Back in 04, 05 was pure waterfall. We spent 3 months writing requirements. We spent 9 months building the software, and then we had a 1 week or a 1 or a 2 week trip planned to our test bed to go test the software. How do you think that went? That turned into Tom and Joe spending 3 months in New Jersey because none of the software ever worked, and like really angry phone calls from customers and all that stuff. So, I don't feel like I have to sell you all on Agile. It's better than waterfall, right? That incorporating all the way through testing, through deployment is just a good thing. Making your work small so you actually know what you're getting done is a good thing. It was funny. Somebody once told me, I forget when it happened, but they said, "Oh, you're an Agile instructor. I've never been in an Agile class. I've been in a waterfall class though." I was like, "What's a waterfall class?" So I just picture a class that teaches the opposite of what I say. And I kind of like to sit in there to hear what they say. Lean Agile leadership, exemplify core values, embrace lean Agile mindset, apply safe principles, lead to transformation. These are the core tenets of this, so you can kind of think up, down, left, right. So program execution, this makes sense, right? Agile teams delivering on their iteration execution. Built-in quality, you're getting user stories done, you're getting features done, you're getting epics done. How's that going? Are they achieving what you expected? Alignment, kind of top to down, like what is the mission, the vision, the strategic themes? Is that understood all the way down to a junior dev here? Does they understand why they're working on what it is they're working on? And then transparency, up and down. Everybody understands how are things going, right? We need to be honest. We need to be open. We need to see clarity and what's going on. And that's why it's not really a tenet of SAFE, but I would recommend if you start looking at this, you get into more programs, pick a SAFE ALM tool. There's Agile tools out there. I don't know what you all are used to using, but Jira is very popular. Jira is, I would consider it's fine for one Agile team that is very self-centered, right? But when you start adding more Agile teams and you need to have the case of understanding portfolio decisions on down, you're going to struggle with a tool that's not meant for that. So just something to consider if you find yourself in a safe solution, to look at a safe ALM tool. And there's a lot of them. Metronome, they're buddies of mine. Jira Align, they bought a product, Atlassian bought a product called Agile Craft last year, and that's a cool tool. CollabNet version 1, Big Picture, there's a number of these things. They're worth looking at if you ever want to get an idea of alternatives to the tool that you may be using. So in the Leading Safe class, we spend a lot of time on this. We talk about what are the principles that leaders need to have. Agile Manifesto. Some of you have probably seen that before. While there's value in items on the right, we value the items on the left more. I want to go through some of these because there's an exercise I wanted to do. And these are the tenets that SAFE adds on top of the Agile Manifesto. So we got 9 principles, and they're all of value. Some seem to hit home with different audiences better than others. I like systems thinking and decentralized decision making a lot, and so like in the Leading Safe class, we have some videos. We do some exercises around that. Small batch sizes, building incrementally. Decentralized decision making is, how do we as an organization work? We got to be able to, we're hiring smart people. Let's give them small problems to solve and let them go do it, right? Like we give them good requirements, but they do it. We don't tell them. We don't have to run everything up the flagpole. This is the SAFE implementation roadmap. There's different. This is actually from last spring, or from the spring, so it's a little outdated now because we have more courses. But it gives you an idea of what it means to get going with this. There's the Leading Safe class, implementing SAFE, product owners, scrum masters, SAFE for teams, the DevOps course, Agile Software Engineering. So these two are more like a workshop, so you can get in there, like how do we improve the actual work execution we're doing. SAFE for Teams is one that I have found is a really good way to get like basic Agile education out to a large group of people. I've done that a couple times. I did a SAFE for Teams in the spring that had a very large number of people in there, and that was, it's kind of fun because they were an old waterfall project that was moving to SAFE, and it's a way to sort of people kind of understand what a good user story looks like, good acceptance criteria, etc. Team and technical agility, that's what it looks like. We've all seen this graphic many times. Agile execution, we have a planning. This occurs over 2 to 3 weeks. Dev team, Scrum Master, Product Owner, have a review, have a retrospective. You have a Kanban board for the team so they can see what their stories are, how they're progressing. The idea, again, we had in the core tenets, we want to think about flow. Always sort of looking at how do we keep work moving through the system, keep completing things. The red numbers there above the Kanban board, that's a useful item to keep in mind if you're thinking about implementing Agile, is WIP limits, right? A buddy of mine went to an organization last year, and they were struggling because they were never getting anything done. And so he went in there, and the first thing he did was build a Kanban board. He was like, okay, we're going to start looking at Agile, we're going to see what's going on. And he went to a government entity, and he developed a Kanban board, had like 12 steps in it. First step was, backlog. Second step was analyzing. Third step, develop a solution. Fourth step, talk to the contractor, get a quote. Fifth step was send it over to contracts to get it awarded. Sixth step, whatever. So, first step had 9 items. Second step had 10 items. Third step had like 7 items. Gets to the last one, send it over to contracting to get it awarded to start executing. Had 59 items in it. So he was doing all this work leading up to a step that things wouldn't progress from. So it was sort of illustrating like there was a lot of resources being spent but no value being delivered because he couldn't get things through. So he put in WIP limits to help to establish where they should be focusing their attention. So I thought that was pretty cool, and he made an effective change there. Oh, I lost my connection. Building quality. This is something that I do believe in. This is the lean UX cycle that we talked about, seeing what should we keep building what we're building? How is it measurable? Is it getting the outcome that we're expecting? Behavioral-driven development is the scenarios that you're putting on top of your development for your testing. And test-driven development is code-level functionality testing, or code-level unit tests you're putting in on everything that's being delivered. Have you done, looks like you're a developer, have you done test-driven development before?
Yep.
Yeah? Did it go well for you?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's awesome. Sometimes companies can't do it, organizations can't do it, but it is a great thing to do because it helps to get that flow going, right? Because you can build everything off of having good unit level testing. And this is part of SAFE too, is we stress this. We want to shift left for fast feedback. The cost, I'm going to forget this metric, but the cost of going back and fixing defects is like 50% more than if you caught it during development. So you're in a lot better shape if you make your work smaller, you test things, and you do it. So test-driven development is the idea for every user story, every piece of code you're writing. You write a test for that. You fail the test, but you prove the test works. Then you write the code to pass the test, and then you go from there, determine if you need to revise anything, need to build on it. But you're really baking quality into everything that you're doing. And so SAFE cares about that because their quote, this is their quote, not mine, is you can't scale crappy code, right? So you need to have good testing throughout. It needs to be baked in order to get everything to come up together with multiple teams. Yeah.
Do you have any stories about testing and quality, that kind of thing, from an influence point of view, where there are people I've encountered who say, they just don't hold it as important, unlike an individual or even a team level, right? And if you had success in getting everyone to agree, these are our quality expectations and standards, we're going to have test coverage, these kinds of fundamental things, right? Making that transition.
Making that transition? To me, the main thing is getting your customer educated on the benefits of it, right? Because a lot of times, at a certain level, you're saying we are going to get less functionality done because we're going to be developing differently, right? So you need to have the customer understand that, like, I'm not just going to race through and get these things out the door because the value of that is lower, because then a lot of that's going to have to be fixed, right? We're going to have more defects that have to come in, that we have to spend time triaging and working on it. So if we alter the way we do work and we say, okay, we're going to focus on automation and build that in and have like recurring regression testing on everything that we do, there's value out of that. But that means you're building out your infrastructure, right? Your processes, your technology solutions to be able to do that. And that comes at the expense of new functionality. So in SAFE, what we call that is capacity allocation. It's like new functionality versus infrastructure improvements. Infrastructure could be classical infrastructure of more VMs or whatever, that makes sense there. But it could also be, we got to go fix ourselves. We got to go tackle technical debt. We need to do this. And so when you have people who've been educated on these type of solutions, they understand that and go, yeah, we'll push back on our customers. And we're going to say, yeah, we need to get new work done, but we're going to reserve 30% to go tackle stuff like this. So
I think kind of a key point I heard you say was it has to be driven from the customer side.
yes, but they need to understand why.
From my point of view, inside of engineering team, people are advocating for things, but then it's sort of just internal, right?
Yeah.
The customer to become the advocate for it.
And this goes back to what I said at the beginning of having
Product manager
and product ownership. I think is that's a skill set that needs to be built up everywhere. There's I love the SAFE product owner course. I taught 40 Navy product owners in October, and it was wonderful. And I just felt better knowing that they heard this because that's a skill set that is needed everywhere. Is too often on Navy government projects, they'll default to like, well, we'll just have the Corps do it. The Corps is the contracting officer who can execute on this. And it's like, well, they still need to know what a product owner should do because that's a real thing, right? It's not like, they'll say, well, the government has to have this position. I'm sorry, I shouldn't pick on the government, but I wouldn't walk into a room and say, like, I'm the senior .NET developer. And then they go, well, do you know .NET? And I go, no, I don't, but I'm going to be that, right? So it's the same thing. Product ownership is a skill set it's an ability, it's knowledge. So, what time did we start? We started at 8:40. How long do I?
About 8:40, yeah.
Okay.
Like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, so I'll go about 7 more minutes because there's an exercise I want to do, so some of you guys can see what an agile execution looks like. DevOps, this is the class I was telling you about earlier. The importance of all the work you do, your value stream, what are the stages involved with everything executing here, why we're doing it, the ability to release on demand. I really like that class, it's good. Agile Release Train, similar, we talked about a Agile team. You want to have cross-functional teams, especially a Scrum team that anybody can tackle a story. We want to think about that from an Agile Release Train. So in Agile Release Train, I bring together these groups of teams that make sense to plan together, with the goal being I need to get things done and out the door finished, right? So that might be a bunch of different Agile teams that accomplish a mission. We hit all of the lanes that make sense to be able to deliver effectively. So, these are just examples, but you could see it if this, makes sense to you. You might have teams that specialize in all these areas. But together, the Agile Release Train can complete an entire vision of a product. Synchronize or PI planning, this is what it looks like. Get all these teams together, big room, put these sheets up on the wall. We lay out what our next group of iterations are with user stories and enablers. So user stories are small pieces of functionality that you'll code, you'll deliver, you'll demonstrate for your customer. An enabler is any sort of backup work you need to do to get those user stories done, right? Could be, we need to go design and implement a bunch of new VMs to spin up our test automation things, right? And so it's not really a user story, but we want to capture that work, right? It could be meetings you have, it could be research events. We're going to call product companies out there because we need a new, integration solution to be able to run all this stuff together. We'll go get GitLab in here or GitHub and execute with it. So. From spaceships to submarines. In some of our programs, we've had a delay in 3 years since transitioning to SAFE. We've not had a problem deployment or release, which is a really big deal. So, going to these, especially in the government, going to a SAFE solution, we get things done. We see the value that is achieved when you're thinking a certain way, you're trained in a certain way, you're able to break this work up into small pieces, that you're regularly getting small pieces done, which means that you're getting larger pieces done that you're committing to during those PI planning events. And you're getting that core predictability that I like to see, right? Right now there's a lot of focus I've seen out of various government entities on agile metrics, right? And so, again, it goes back to education and coaching. Agile metrics to me mean very little for the most part, right? If you've got a dev team and you get 30 points worth of work done per iteration, and she's got a dev team that's getting 20 points done per iteration, then he's winning, right? Right. Yeah. No, that's not how that works, because the 30 points means something to you, and the 20 points means something different to you. So it's hard to just come up with these metrics if you understand that of how do you compare an Agile program to an Agile program. So you got to apply a deeper level thinking of how well are we actually executing? Are we creating good features that are measurable to see if we're proceeding on the path that we should be proceeding on? Because if we're not, then we need to make a change. We need to pivot. So those are the metrics that mean something more to me. Is are we creating value that is measurable, and my customers can see how it's going? And the only way you can do that is if you're doing everything else right, because you're creating these work requirements, and you're putting the thought process around it to make certain that they have like endpoints that you can measure and see how that's going, and then you need an Agile engine that will actually be delivering it. So it's sort of a yin and a yang capability to have what I call a real Agile engine of delivery. So solution train, we went over that briefly earlier about when you bring multiple Agile release trains together. This gets very big, very complicated. The largest one I heard was I think it was an insurance company held a PI planning event in Las Vegas and rented out I think it was a 20,000 square foot room at a convention center that had, for a PI planning event, that had 1,500 people in it. So that was like 10 Agile Release Trains planning out their next quarter worth of work. And so to do that, they contracted directly with Scaled Agile and a partner company. But it was pretty funny to hear the story of how, because a PI planning event has a very specific structure on how you accomplish that. And they had to come up with a lot of visualizations. So for them, like the RTEs, so for each train you had one RTE. They had a balloon that was a certain color tied to the RTE. So the green balloons for the RTE, so you could be in this giant room, and when you saw a green balloon, you'd be like, okay, I know where an RTE is. And they do the same. The red balloon meant product owner. Blue balloon was a scrum master, and it was just a way to visually see it. So they had this whole giant room of balloons, and that's what they had chosen to do. And I was like, wow, that's pretty good. That'd be cool just to see 1,500 people executing this way. And I saw the gentleman who was one of the RTEs on that over the summer at the SAFE conference, and I was like, oh, how'd the balloon thing go? Because he was telling me that was their plans for the day. He goes, yeah, it didn't go well. We all got tangled up. Spent most of their time all tangled up together. He said, so we're going to switch to crazy hats. And I was like, okay, well, that's good. So, but just an idea to think about, when you get that many people together, you have to have some way to quickly be able to assess a room to be able to do it. So they ended up going to big hats, and that's how they went forward. So yeah, the only thing on this slide I want to bring up is, when you start executing this way, again, back to predictability, and you're thinking about these business cases that you're defining as epics, that you're tracking, and the features that are 3-month-long pieces that you will get done, you can create a roadmap from PI to PI to PI that makes a lot of sense, right? You can look at this and say, okay, this is what my train committed to getting done during this program increment. The next two were forecasted. Hey, roughly, this is the path we're on. This is how much work we can get done. We can get an idea of when major features of our software, of our delivery, will be available. So anyway, different configurations of SAFE. We have a lot of material. Again, the key part to me is having training to understand the different roles. I do think that there's a lot of value in your Scrum Masters, understanding how to set up Kanban boards, how to do this, having release train engineers who can bring large groups of people together. There's actually a couple more. That new class I was telling you about, the Agile Product Delivery course, lives over here as another way of, what I was earlier, the point of, these are execution type classes, workshops to see how is your work going, where can you improve. The Agile Product Delivery one is a workshop for your product management side. Are we building the right thing? Are we spending money the right way? Are we designing the features that our customers need the most? How are we getting that data back in, right? We want to do participatory business decisions, and not just somebody going, oh, I'm on high, this is how it's going to be, right? So that's what that course is around, is coming up with logical consensus making around driving your product management.
Excuse me, Tom, do
Yeah.
some of these courses that include a component on how you manage and work with remote teams, both from the perspective of the team player as well as the team leader?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different types of team leader, right? Like Safe for Teams is really focused around like team level execution. So if you have a tech lead, that's a good place to start. Like, hey, we want to execute in a agile manner, and I'm going to have technical leads. This is what they do. But the other two, Scrum Master or Advanced Scrum Master, and the product owner, depends on if you're going to put somebody in charge of a different area, right? So if you need someone who needs to understand how to prioritize and break up work, from a business perspective, somebody's going to be going, okay, these are my customers. I need to assess the market. I need to factor all this in. And I need to be talking to the system architect and the tech leads to factor in, like what Ted was saying earlier about technical debt or process changes that might lead to less work coming out. That's where you need that product manager, and that's that skill set that I want to build up. And saying that the Scrum Master is someone who's going, okay, is this all working right?
Right.
Am I working these type of?
But it's very different to have a team that's all in the same geography versus remote.
Yeah, I've seen it work both ways. You know, for a while, it's interesting, the safe material, they updated it because they were like, early on was very, co-location is huge, right? We need to get everybody together. But that's an example of the times are changing, right? So we end up with a lot more distributed teams. We have, you know, Agile Release Trains where it's wonderful to get everybody together, but you might have a dev team in India, right? And or a couple dev teams in India, and you got to figure out how you're going to coordinate that. So, you know, we tackle that, especially in the RTE course. If you're putting together a whole solution of how do you handle distributed teams and leave that there. So, but I mean, leadership is throughout this, right? So that's my quick run through of SAFE. Do we have time for my exercise, or we? I don't know where we're at.
It's up to the group. You know, how long does it take?
It's 9:30. I think we could do it in 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So if you guys are for it, then take the extra 10 minutes. Yeah, sure.
You want to do it?
That's right.
So this is an exercise from the Safe for Teams class. So I did not invent it. I want to make that clear. So I need, how many people do we have in here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So can we do a group of 5 and a group of 6? You guys want to bunch up? Somewhere 2 rows?
I'll move up. Honest.
If any of you played dodgeball,
Yeah. Yeah, who's the fastest? So I'm going to give you, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
For my team?
Yep, that's 15. I'll give you guys one more. Nope. Well,
Oh,
you guys
you want me to
figure this out.
hold
So I'm
on
going to
to it?
establish the rules. Yep.
Okay.
So this is a iteration execution exercise where what you have in your hand represents work. Those golf balls, right? So work is only done when everybody on your team has touched a ball, right? Meaning, so Kristen, we start with here. I'm sorry, I don't know your name,
Liz.
the name tag, but we would go, okay, so we go to this, toss to you, toss to him, and then you have to throw it back to somebody else, and then it comes there, back to her, and now it's 1, so that's been completed, okay? So your work done is a golf ball that has made it all the way through your group, that everybody has touched that golf ball, and it's made it back to the first person.
Do you have to toss it?
Yes, you have to toss it. Well, you can't hand it. So this is where we're gonna
Fastball.
We're gonna have what we're gonna do here is we're gonna see how much work we can get done, and it's a process improvement exercise, right? Because it's iteration execution. We'll see how things improve as you get going. So we're gonna do a 2-minute iteration, and then we're gonna have a 1-minute retrospective, and then we're gonna do several more iterations and retrospectives until we get to the end. And the idea would be we would probably improve with the number of work items we get done each iteration. You guys got it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What do we do when I get it back? Can I put it on the floor?
No, you keep going because you want to get as many as you can get done.
Oh, I keep, okay. How do
So I don't want to give you too many because you'll figure out how to do this faster as you go. The key thing is you can't hand it to someone and it can't go to a person right next to you. Okay? So you have to go across somehow. So you arrange yourself so you're not just handing it left or right.
So do we get multiple balls and fight one?
That's up to you, Dave.
All right.
All right.
Stay on
So
your
I'm gonna
toes,
give you-
everyone.
One at a time.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 1 minute to plan, starting right now, and then we're going to start.
That sounds good. Okay.
I'm doing a set pattern.
Right?
Yeah.
1 minute to
Set
plan.
pattern. And
Oh, okay.
I'll probably,
Like
when
Star
it's,
Shape, right?
if I pass it to Mike and you pass it to Jason or whatever our order is, then I'll pass another one. So we have a couple going at the same time.
Alex, Greg, Eileen.
Okay, so you're Jason?
Mike.
Mike.
Jason to Mike,
That's Jason.
Mike to Jason.
Yeah. We're gonna need to skip you, so I'm gonna go across.
Yep. And then here,
Okay?
yeah.
And every time you get it, you're gonna throw it back.
Okay.
Okay. And you're always gonna get it.
Yeah.
This is the only, you're
Yeah,
always
I'm gonna
getting the
get it from
ball
him.
and you're
Okay,
always
all right.
getting it back.
We got
I think.
10 seconds and we're going to get started.
Right here, we'll
Okay.
back to you.
So I always catch you from you. Yeah.
All right, ready?
Yeah,
Here you go. Start in 5,
Let's maybe do
4,
one and feel how it's
3,
and then you can
2,
start the next
1,
ones, right?
go. 2-minute execution. And keep track every time it makes it all the way back to the first person.
Oops.
I'm sorry. So that was 3, okay.
Clearly that's the hardest.
I know.
Yeah.
So you can't put any of these down?
Apparently not.
Well,
Oh, Mike, sorry.
Oh,
Oh.
what am I doing?
9.
are we counting? Is anyone counting?
I've got them in my,
Oh, I see. She
Oh,
got them here.
okay, I got it.
Back.
13.
Get all of them here.
16. 18.
oh, music group.
20.
Or you got 30 seconds left. So keep track.
There's an easy improvement for next time. We should stall mine. So.
All right, 5,
Oh,
4, 3.
We should what?
There's no reason for 6.
No, yeah, right.
We should get the ball out. I'll hold the ball. You'll hold the ball.
Yeah.
Now we have more hands free.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they have to
All
start.
right,
with
how
three,
much work did you
Yeah,
get?
but you won't have to hold
I don't
them
know,
all.
Chris.
Okay.
So,
How much work did you get done?
Everybody's still working their head out.
This times, I don't know, how many times did we go through it? I think like 3 or 4.
3, we'll say 3.
So,
So-
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times 4.
28? All right. All right, so now you have 1 minute to plan again. Think about how you can improve this.
Okay.
All right? 1 minute, plan
I
again.
think we just use 5 balls.
Do the green balls last and easier to count.
Okay.
Everybody should have one ball at one time.
I feel better
overall.
when I have one
Are the rules of the game?
Tom?
The rules of the game, you have to get every ball to go around, but then it's just a sum of how many balls?
How many balls
You
you
have to
got?
repeat the pattern again?
You can do it however you want to do it. I have no rules other than it doesn't count unless she started it. You all touch it, it goes back
And
to
you
you.
just have to hold on to them the whole time.
No.
Okay, so you want to, you can put them in the basket.
There's different things in the ball.
and then you catch the
Or
ball.
You can do
whatever you want
multiple.
to do.
Yeah.
It felt more.
Well, I think 3 balls going at a time. Let's get all 3 of them around and just put 3 on the side.
I'll have 5.
And just keep 3 balls going.
Okay.
And then you can actually catch. No one's ever holding more than 2 balls.
Yeah. So it's
If we think we can have more than, but
However
6
you
people, I think 3 is probably fine.
So we
All right.
start off with doing our hand.
10,
Can you start? Do I have to
9.
start all the balls?
Yeah, I think I can.
However you want to do
This will
it.
be-
Let's just spread out the balls to start.
When everybody has touched the ball is the only time you can count it.
Well, then we won't know if it's
Yeah,
gone around.
yeah.
It'll be easier for us to count.
So,
And then
So,
you them
get
out.
these
And then-
around
5,
and then switch them out.
4,
No, just
3,
use those 3.
2, 1, start.
What?
We can touch all of them.
Yeah.
We have to use every ball?
No, well, no,
Okay.
you don't have to
No,
touch
not
every ball.
everybody.
Every ball that gets touched by every person counts.
Yes.
A ball touched by every person counts. It doesn't matter which balls we use. We can use 1 ball.
I have balls, ready?
Okay.
So you do these first, just catch one.
All right, ready?
Are we doing this right?
Here we go. Oops.
It's weird because we're actually.
One more cookie.
I should have done
Yes.
earlier.
Okay.
That would come to
Yeah,
you.
1 minute left.
I'm not
We need a cue or something.
Yeah.
I'm not counting either. I really
Yeah.
messed up big time.
Okay. Ready?
Counting.
Toss.
1,
Ready?
You are?
toss.
Just count how many times you catch a ball.
3,
Ready? Toss.
4,
Wait.
5,
Not my DNA. I'm like
Hold up.
channeling.
6,
Ready?
Oops.
Toss.
All right, 30 seconds left.
9,
Ready? Toss.
I don't have one time on there. Is everybody have one?
Ready?
Toss. Toss. Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot, 2. No, I don't, sorry.
Who did this come from?
All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. All right, what number did you have?
I count 28.
You touched?
Like 45.
I don't
Great, perfect.
Okay. So that, I'll bet that number was a little lower if I did
Probably.
that. What number did you
How did
have?
we feel?
I think we probably did about 30, truly. Like,
Let's see what's out.
Yes.
We try to figure it out.
There's a lot of synchronization backlog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna do one more. One more iteration. I'm thinking about how this went. How can we do it? You want a hip or a hint? Think multiple balls at once.
I don't feel like we got.
I can toss you two at the same time?
Something like that, right? You start having the process improvements, right? But also remember, it just has to go through the air. It doesn't mean you have to toss it.
You guys just like this, like 2.5.
So you can drop it, and then drop it.
And then we just
So we have a little impediment here to work around.
So the ball,
Oh, I know.
the key
Just
thing is
move
the
over
ball
here?
has to be in the air. It doesn't matter. if it's
We just get a
tossed.
smaller.
How many balls can you hold?
come closer.
I'm not Johnny Bench, so probably
But
about
if
All
we,
right.
if we basket them,
5,
get more.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, actually, you don't have to go to
You
the
start
puzzle.
with
Fine.
three.
Yeah, there
You
we
start
go.
with three.
Yeah. And then go
Same.
across.
Oh, yeah, go across.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so that way.
3.
Switch the order, huh?
Now keep track.
All right, sorry.
Keep track of how
Keep
many
the order.
times.
Follow the order.
All right.
I'm starting with 3.
12.
Just having it split.
There we go.
Okay, they've got to go to this guy.
There.
Got it.
And then to me. And then across. To you.
21. 24.
There we go.
I'm not.
27. This is 30.
I mean, this should be 16. Kristen started with the 4. I started with the 3. So when you get the 4 back, it's 7.
All right, 30 seconds.
Oh my gosh. 69. 72.
When you do this with large groups, they get intensely repetitive. And they start to get mad and they start spying on each other. So I love these things. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. All right, 2-1, what'd you get?
127.
127. 2-2, what'd you get?
Anyone count?
128. Yeah, right.
So when we do that exercise in a class, it's funny when you get a lot of these teams together. Like you get really competitive and teams start spying on each other. And so I know I kind of gave you a hint that that was for speed, but usually that happens by like the third or the fourth iteration through it because somebody's figured that out, and then all the other teams saw it and go, oh, and then they start to do it too. So yeah, we end up usually around these numbers early. We do this 5 times, and by the end we have like numbers in the 300s.
Wow.
Yeah, they're figuring out ways to do that. So pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a
Teaches
great,
you the element.
it's a great exercise, but it reminded me, when I dropped a ball, was thinking about, I forget the guy's name, Pete something or other, about how one of the challenges of lean is both looking down and looking out.
Yeah.
And I felt really much, I was like looking in only to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. But needing to understand why you're doing it, right? So the goal of this was to teach you how to, sort of the process improvement, why we keep, we iteratively measure small pieces of work and we can find ways to get more work done. So.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah. That's it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.